From the most trusted names in local news, KDPG Sunday Edition.
Good morning and welcome to the KDPG Sunday Edition. I'm John Delano. It was an historic week at the Supreme Court. Groups supporting LGBTQ rights rallied for their cause as the justices heard arguments on whether federal laws should apply to LGBTQ people. This morning we are going to talk about that case and take stock of gay rights across the nation and right here in Pittsburgh. Before we introduce our guests, let's get an idea of what's at stake in the Supreme Court. Jan Crawford filed this report from Washington.
I was fired for being gay.
Gerald Bostock says he lost his job in Georgia after joining a gay recreational softball league.
It's a much bigger issue than just me.
Transgender woman Amy Stevens said she was fired from a Michigan funeral home after she revealed she was transitioning from a man.
And we all deserve the same rights.
Today, they asked the court to rule that Title VII of the 1964 Federal Civil Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination based on an individual's race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, also protects employees based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. But conservative justices suggested those arguments should be directed instead at Congress. Justice Samuel Alito. The point is that discrimination on the basis of sex, in the sense that Congress understood it in 1964, is a different concept from discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. Justices noted far-reaching implications: same-sex bathrooms, dress codes, and transgender women playing on women's sports teams. Congress repeatedly has refused to change the 1964 law to specifically prohibit employment discrimination based on sexual orientation. And until last year, federal appeals courts have uniformly said it wasn't covered, leading 22 states and the District of Columbia to pass their own laws outlawing it. But liberal justices were sympathetic, saying the civil rights law was aimed at combating discrimination, even if not seen as a problem at the time. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Title VII was meant to strike out the entire spectrum of sex stereotyping.
Now, the court's two new justices seemed almost impossible to predict. I mean, Justice Neil Gorsuch did seem somewhat open to the idea that the words of this law could be read to cover this kind of discrimination, but then he seemed concerned about the, quote, massive social upheaval that kind of ruling might cause. Jan Crawford, CBS News, the Supreme Court.
Now, this morning on the KDPG Sunday Edition, two guests who work on civil rights right here in Pittsburgh. Gary Van Horn is president of the Delta Foundation of Pittsburgh, which advocates for the LGBTQ community. And Megan Stanley is executive director of the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations. We are also joined by Jerry Micco, senior assistant managing editor for the Post-Gazette. Hey, it's great to have all of you here today and just trying to understand exactly what this case is all about. Cases, I should say. Gary, let me start with you and just ask you, how important is all of this, is this Supreme Court case, to folks that you work with right here in Pittsburgh?
Well, I think it's very important. I think over the past 20 or 30 years, you've seen the LGBT community really come out of the closet. They've changed people's hearts and minds. We see people that, we're just like everybody else. We're their brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, coworkers, etc. And we've come so far, and now the Supreme Court has the final decision, I guess you could say, or the next decision as it relates to government and how we treat people as it relates to the government, which has far-reaching ideals. So,
Megan, you deal with this issue all the time because you're in the city of Pittsburgh, and the city of Pittsburgh has a different law or ordinance than the rest of the country or even the state of Pennsylvania, for that matter. Exactly what's going on in the city of Pittsburgh, and how does that impact what's going on at the Supreme Court?
So the city of Pittsburgh passed specific protections. On top of banning sex discrimination, we also made gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation discrimination illegal. So we have a specific ordinance saying these practices, not only in employment, which is all we're looking at the Supreme Court, but also in housing and public accommodations, are illegal in the city of Pittsburgh. Just this past summer in June, we passed even stronger protections, broadened them, updated the definitions. Sexual orientation was actually added to the Pittsburgh City Code in 1997, which is a really progressive move that we had, over 20 years ago to add this.
So let me play lawyer here, which I am, and just sort of see if we can clarify this for our viewers, because this gets complicated. The Civil Rights Act, as passed in 1964, it prohibits employment discrimination based on sex. So the question before the court is, does that include sexual orientation? Is that it in a nutshell?
I would say sexual orientation, and then further the gender identity and expression. That the Amy Stevens case that was being argued is really asking that question. And I think this goes back to the 1989 decision about Ann Hopkins and Price Waterhouse, where the courts did determine that sex stereotyping fell under that 1964 definition of sex. And so if the Civil Rights Act protects against sex discrimination based on stereotyping, do we think that gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation should also fall under that?
Gary, this case could also fall two ways. It could be a split. They could take parts of it and say, we're not going to do this, we're going to do that. What is it that LGBTQ groups are looking for out of this case in particular? Broader protection, but is there anything else that they're looking for out of this?
Well, I think at the end of the day, this comes down to just treating people with respect. And at the end, you know, it's kind of interesting. You can get married to the partner who you love today and fired from your job tomorrow in this country. That just doesn't seem right to me. And I think we've seen people's hearts and minds really change as it relates to that. And it's time for our government to say, enough's enough. We're going to treat everybody with dignity, respect, and inclusion.
Megan, I'll ask you this question. Do you think that, we heard in one part of that segment that we showed the clip, that there's concern about the Supreme Court perhaps going a little bit too far, changing so much socially? Well, a lot of people say Roe v. Wade did exactly the same thing. The Supreme Court has done this for years. What's your thought on that, of how far this decision might go, and might they split the difference here and say, transgender, yes, we can, that's an easy one, maybe an easier one to do, but the other is not. Federal courts have said, no, you can't do it. So I
think the decision could be split. They could say yes to one, no to the other, yes to both, or no to both. So we don't know, and we won't know probably until June of next year. But what I think is important here is the courts are concerned about, should they be legislating this? Should we just leave it to Congress? If we know that there is a problem and that all humans are not being treated equally, shouldn't we step in? Shouldn't the highest court in the land say no more? No more worrying about the zip code that you're in makes a difference for what protections you have under the law. I think that it should be just the law of the land in the U.S.
So how real a problem is this? I mean, for many of us, certainly the way I look at things, I don't care what your sexual orientation is, whether you're transgender or not. I want to know if you do the job. If you can do the job, I'll hire you. If you can't do the job, I don't care what you are, I'll fire you.
We've seen the corporate community obviously embrace the LGBT community across the board, providing transgender benefits, etc. This really affects folks, probably the most underserved members of our community. Folks that are living paycheck to paycheck, not necessarily living in a metro city as Pittsburgh, but living in Beaver, Butler, Washington County, where these folks are trying just to live paycheck to paycheck, trying to be who they are or love who they want to love, and have a job.
So you know of folks in Pennsylvania who have been fired?
Absolutely.
Simply because they're gay or because they're transgender?
I mean, right now, I just looked at the statistics this morning. In the past year, just in the city of Pittsburgh, so people who work within city boundaries, 9% of the cases filed at the commission were based on LGBTQ status. So that's really high, and that tells us, you know, how many more haven't filed, especially the people that you're talking about, more vulnerable populations. They don't have time to take off from work to come file a complaint. How many more are out there that aren't being served?
We noticed in Jan Crawford's story, a map of all the states in the United States, and a number of them, from New York to California, have passed laws that specifically prohibit discrimination on LGBTQ basis. Pennsylvania has not. What's going on here? Why has Pennsylvania not joined these other states?
Well, it's not because we haven't tried. We've been trying for many, many years. And unfortunately, it's been held up in committee in the House, specifically Darryl Metcalf, who's the representative from very close up in Butler County, who has really come out against the LGBT community.
He no longer chairs that state government committee.
He does not, but there's not been real movement in Harrisburg to move forward. Our governor has taken steps from a executive standpoint to do as much as he can. But unfortunately, there really isn't a movement here, although there's been a ton of support not only, the funny part is when you have this conversation, most people think that already that there's protections out there, that you can't fire somebody just because of who they love or how they identify, but you actually can still each and every day. And you know, you ask how big of a problem it is, it's a big problem. We get calls on a weekly basis, and it's unfortunately normally areas that don't have those protections.
Is it, you talked about, Gary, the corporate community seems to have embraced this, yet not all of it. Is there anything that can be done education-wise? And I'm talking in Pittsburgh, Megan, you can talk about it too, and there is a more stricter law, but is there anything that the community can do to keep outreach into places like you mentioned some of the outlying counties here? And has that effort been going on?
So I would say the biggest thing is people telling their story. When people open up and tell their story, whether that's a family member, whether that's a coworker, et cetera, that's when hearts and minds change because it's a human touch part. I ultimately believe in the crazy world that we live in that people are still good people. And when you're sitting having a conversation with somebody, it's really hard to discriminate against them. So having a seat at the table and having a loved one or somebody that you care about or even just a coworker, just having a conversation and telling their story is very, very powerful.
Megan, I'll just follow up a little bit on that. Gary said that it's mostly in the outlying areas, but you cite 9%. So what is your commission, what is your group doing to maybe help in a way of letting corporations, people know, hey, look, this isn't what we do in Pittsburgh and this isn't how we want to be as a community?
Right, I mean, I think that it is still a big problem, and the biggest thing, as you mentioned, is we need to get outreach and education out to the community. So not just to the employers in corporate America, but to the people who might be harmed by this to say, these are your rights. So in the city of Pittsburgh, you have these protections. At Pride Fest this year, we had over 1,000 people come to our table for the commission, and we surveyed them, and most people thought that all of Pennsylvania had these protections when really only the city does, and they were really surprised to hear that. So that tells me that people might not know how much of a problem it is. They also might not know the rights that they have and that they can stand up for those.
Let's go over the protections again. If you live or work in the city of Pittsburgh, the protections are not just whether you're gay or lesbian. It goes beyond that, right?
Right, and we define, we updated the definition so it's not just this binary male-female gender spectrum. We like to think of things on a really broad spectrum, so it's sex, sexual orientation, gender, and gender expression.
And explain for our viewers, what's the difference between gender identity and gender expression?
So gender identity, in here as well, is how somebody identifies what gender they feel that they are, right? So you might look at me and perceive one thing, but I might say, I actually identify as a male, so that is my gender identity. The outward expression of that would be my gender expression. And so those two things might not line up to you when you meet me, but I, as a person, have the right to say, this is how I'm expressing it, and this is how I identify.
And again, in the city of Pittsburgh, discriminating on the basis of any of these four categories is illegal.
It is illegal.
How about Allegheny County?
2009, Allegheny County, under then Executive Honorado, passed a law, which was only an 8-6 vote through County Council, so it's very close. So that extended it into Allegheny County. Unfortunately, the difference between Allegheny County and the city actually has a full commission with staff members. The county doesn't have staff. So while it is still illegal and you can take action and you can take civil action in court, because it is a protected class, there isn't quite the level of support that the state has.
And they only cover sexual orientation.
Correct.
Right?
So the other categories are not covered.
Right, so sex is covered, sexual orientation, but gender identity and gender expression are not. So again, the Amy Stevens case, trans rights are not covered in Allegheny County.
We're going to have to take a quick break right now. Sorry, Gary, we'll let you get started. We're going to come back in just a few minutes. I want to focus basically on the massive social upheaval that one of these justices asked about. We're talking bathrooms, folks, and we want to make sure we get a good response from the folks here at the table. We'll be right back. Stick with us.